Hey Wisecrack, Jared here. Today we're looking at another offering from the mind of One, the Japanese manga artist behind one of our favorite shows, One Punch Man. I'm talking, of course, about the hilarious and thought-provoking Mob Psycho 100. Like One Punch Man, Mob Psycho 100 explores what it means to live a fulfilling life by unpacking the unique challenges faced by an overpowered protagonist. Unlike Saitama, however, Shigeo Kageyama finds a way to make peace with his abilities and get satisfaction out of life in spite of them. Now, how does he do it? Well, let's dig in and find out. Welcome to this Wisecrack Edition on the philosophy of Mob Psycho 100. And spoilers ahead for mostly Season 1 since Season 2 is still in progress. Now first, a quick recap. Our main character, Mob, is a middle schooler born with psychic powers that give him a near godlike ability to manipulate the world around him. The young psychic spends his afternoons working for Reagan, a con man masquerading as a powerful psychic. From the beginning of their time together, Reagan tells Mob that he must never use his powers against other human beings.
強大すぎる力は使い方を誤れば己の身を滅ぼす。だから暴走しないよう力のコントロールの仕方を俺が教えてやってるんだよ。
So, Mob spends his days trying to live the life of a normal middle schooler, repressing the rage that fuels his powers, which, in spite of his best efforts, occasionally gets away from him. When other superpowered humans called Espers attack Mob and his friends, he's torn between the desire to defend his loved ones and his promise to not hurt other people. Mob's reluctance to use his powers might seem a little weird. At first glance, having psychic powers seems like a sweet deal. Teru, the shadow leader of the gang from a rival middle school, uses his powers to bully his schoolmates into submission. As a result, he seems to have everything a teenage boy could want: attention, respect, power, etc. In other words, all the things Mob lacks. Dimple, the power-hungry ghost who becomes Mob's sidekick after a failed attempt to possess him, puts it pretty bluntly. With the exception of Mob, the Espers and other powerful beings of this world are profoundly egocentric, viewing themselves as the main characters of an unfolding story rather than regular people with limitations. But Mob doesn't want the superficially perfect life of Teru. He'd prefer to earn his more fulfilling existence. Mob believes that an easy life built entirely around his innate gifts would be pointless, because the things he wants are things he'll have to work for.
超能力を使っても手に入らないものなんてあるの？そんなものはない。神にだってなれるんだ。筋肉。何言ってんだこいつ。それに女心ってやつとか空気読む技術。他にもいっぱいあると思うよ。
Taking a cue from his master Reagan, Mob argues that accepting or realizing limitations can have a positive influence on one's life, and he has an ally in Irish philosopher Edmund Burke. Burke is most well known for his description of the sublime, the feeling of experiencing oneself as infinitesimally small in the face of the vast forces beyond one's control. To put it in another way, the sublime, according to Burke, is that which suspends or even destroys egocentricity through a display of power or grandeur that completely overwhelms one's own capabilities. It's the feeling you might get looking at a mountain range, staring into deep space, or sailing a ship through a thunderstorm. Robert J. Oppenheimer might have been feeling the sublime when he tested the first nuclear weapons in the Nevada desert. You get the idea. Burke believed that such experiences were a vital part of a healthy life, and that they force us to use mental and spiritual capacities we might otherwise prefer to ignore, namely those which remind us that we are not at the center of the universe. According to Burke, a life spent avoiding the challenging scenarios that make the experience of the sublime possible can get very unhealthy very quickly. He held that the experience of the sublime in a literal way exercises parts of our mind and bodies which rarely get activated in day-to-day life, but which are vital to our well-being. Specifically, the parts which tense up in response to fear. As he puts it, labor is a thing absolutely requisite to make us pass our lives with tolerable satisfaction. Melancholy, dejection, despair, and often self-murder is the consequence of the gloomy view we take of things in this relaxed state of body. In other words, getting too relaxed about one's place in the universe is a quick way to majorly bum yourself out. This is exactly the trap that the majority of the show's Espers have fallen into. Like the Paradisers in One Punch Man, Teru and the leaders of Claw carry around a massive sense of entitlement, which, far from bringing them what they need to be truly happy, instead leaves them feeling miserable when the real world fails to give them what they falsely believe they deserve.
こんなにすごいのにどうして認めてくれないの？私は世界に特別扱いされてしかるべきですよ。その世界がふさわしいの。
Mob recognizes early on that these Espers have no substance to their being.
自分から超能力を取ったら何も残らない。空っぽなんだ。
Because the Espers are dependent on their powers for their sense of identity and worth, they can't tolerate any attacks on their constructed self-image.
このまま施設に侵入されたらメンツが丸つぶれなんだよ。
Teru displays this fragility toward the end of his fight with Mob. Frustrated with Mob for not fighting back, Teru breaks down and tells him,
力さえ使えば何もかも思い通りになった。
なんだよ今のシュートすっげえ。すいませんでした。もう勘弁してください。
そんな僕の世界を
クッキー作ったんでよかったら。
お前がお前という存在がぶっ壊した。
Teru perceives Mob's refusal to fight as a rejection of him, not just an annoyance or an insult, but a direct assault on his self-perception as an opponent worthy of Mob's full strength. Teru can't stand Mob's patronizing because it denies his self-perception, and as Mob points out, Teru has nothing without that.
あれ、わかった。なんでそんなに僕に敵意を向けるのか。これは同族嫌悪だ。花沢くんは僕に少し似てる。超能力を持ってるところじゃなくて、自分に全然自信がないところ。
Like Saitama's strength, the Esper's abilities are a double-edged sword. Left unchecked, they make it easy to believe that they are inherently better than other humans and therefore are deserving of special treatment. Now, this way of thinking leaves them deeply unsatisfied no matter how much power or status they attain. What these Espers need is a reality check, a reminder that they're subject to the same set of rules as the rest of the human race. In other words, they need to have their egos brought down a peg by an overwhelming experience with the sublime. Burke described the experience as a terrifying but ultimately pleasant feeling resulting from the healthy exercise of mind, body, and spirit. A mind that never experiences its own insignificance is therefore a weak mind. In the same way that a body gets weak without exercise, that weakness is what allows melancholy, objection, despair, and all that other fun stuff to take root in the first place. He claims that the best remedy for all those evils is to exercise or labor, and labor is a surmounting of difficulties. For mind and body to work in proper order, they must be shaken and worked to a proper degree. Unlike the deluded Espers, Mob wants to do the difficult labor of integrating himself into the world and society, rather than just trying to transcend it. So, he finds some friends to help him do just that.
Fight! Fight! Fight!
Like Burke, Musashi Gouda and the other members of the Body Improvement Club view surmounting of difficulties as the key to a fulfilling life. Unlike Teru, Dimple, and the Section 7 division leader, they choose to challenge those parts of themselves which are weakest, rather than rely on their innate strengths and let the rest of their bodies and minds waste away.
辛さ、そして気持ちよさを覚えておけよ、鬼瓦。
The Espers, on the other hand, avoid difficulties by relying on their psychic powers to gain social status and uphold a false sense of self-worth. As such, they have to be shaken and worked by forces outside their control before they can find a true sense of fulfillment. Teru is the clearest example. When Mob defeats him, Teru is overwhelmed by his power and feels terror, the emotion Burke identifies as a key component of the experience of the sublime. For the first time in his life, Teru feels utter helplessness and the fear of death as he's shorn of his hair, stripped naked, and hoisted up into the sky by Mob's runaway psychic powers. After pleading for Mob to stop, Teru gets cast into the sky and the chaos gives way to a serene moment of reflection, where he's dwarfed by the clouds and an endless vista in the background. Such visuals are reminiscent of classical romantic art, which was influenced by Burke's ideas and often portrayed small human subjects facing vast, overwhelming forces of nature. The realization that he's not nearly the most powerful being in the universe brings Teru real peace.
僕って凡人だったんだな。
In a subtler way, Reagan exposes the remaining scars to the Sublime by crushing their delusions of grandeur through a combination of Mob's transferred powers and his own rhetoric. He puts things in perspective by reminding the scars that, even with their powers, they're not special.
自分のことなんだと思ってんだ。庶民だよてめえは。平民大衆の一部。我々爪は崇高な。俺は庶民だ。お前らより圧倒的に強い俺が庶民で。出た。お前らはなんだって。力ずくで妄想から現実に引っ張ってきた。
Like Mob does for Teru, Reagan shows the scars proof of their utter insignificance, giving them a taste of the sublime and putting them on the path toward a healthier, more grown-up state of mind. For the Espers, the key to freedom is realizing that they are still human, small, and vulnerable as the rest of us. As the show's theme song puts it,
If everyone is not special, maybe you can't be what you want to be.
which is all well and good when you're an average Esper like Teru or the Scars. But how do you experience the sublime when you really are the closest thing to a god that anyone has ever seen? That is, how is Mob going to get back in touch with reality? Mob has a leg up on the other Espers in that he actually wants to be a normal person. He tries to improve his physical abilities and social skills by joining the Body Improvement Club, and he repeatedly states his admiration for his brother Ritsu, who accomplishes so much even before he discovers his own psychic powers.
弟君に何ができるんだ？
リツは頭がいいんだ。超能力がないと何もできない僕とは違って、何でも工夫して解決できるんだよ。
But Mob can't get there on his own. Like the other Espers, he's plagued by a delusional self-image, albeit a less dickish one. As a 14-year-old kid, Mob is under the delusion that he has to be in total control of his world at all times, that he is profoundly responsible for everything that happens during his unconscious psychic episodes. This causes him to repress his emotions out of fear that he will be overwhelmed by his rage.
たまに勝手に動き出すんです。それも僕の意識がない時に。
Ironically, this gives him even less control over when and how he explodes. The weight of this responsibility is incredibly painful for him.
自分は変わることができなかった。また超能力で事故を起こしてしまった。感情をぶつける先が見つからない。矛盾をはらむ無力感に飲まれる。どうしても自分に勝てないという悲しみ。それはモブの自らに対するささやかな抵抗であった。
In other words, while Mob talks a big game about wanting to be normal, in reality, he clings to an image of himself as the main mover and shaker of his world, responsible for everything that happens in it. This is his delusion, a more benevolent version of the other Esper's greedy desire for godhood.
みんなを守るためには僕がやらなきゃいけないんだ。
It takes Reagan, an adult Mob respects and looks up to remind him that he's just a kid and that he doesn't always have to bear the world on his shoulders.
やめとけモブ。お前が苦しくなるだけだ。嫌な時はな、逃げたっていいんだよ。
The idea that he doesn't have to be at the center of the fight after all shocks Mob into an experience of the sublime. Burke would say he's been properly astonished. It allows him to feel his own insignificance and temporarily transfer his powers to Reagan. In this way, he's finally able to come to terms with his abilities and get on with the business of living a good life, which, as we see in Season 2, comes with its own struggles. No such luck for One Punch Man. Sorry, Saitama. We've had the chance to review two of One's biggest projects and have started to notice some interesting overlapping themes. Both One Punch Man and Mob Psycho 100 ask us to really think about what constitutes a good life. Saitama and Mob's struggles with their powers reveal that a fulfilling existence might not be as simple as getting whatever you want whenever you want it. In the Oneiverse, happiness is the result of deliberate struggle and growth. As our favorite pubescent psychic puts it, and we can't wait to see how these themes develop as Season 2 wraps up. So what do you think, Wisecrack? Do self-imposed limitations and challenges beat out Uber Eats in the long run? Are there other overlapping themes? Be sure to let us know in the comments, and as always, thanks for watching, guys.
これであの世に出発できるわ